Hey y'all, welcome to the Blinded Truth True Shots, where real stories meet real healing. I'm your host, Destiny Vance, and today's episode is titled, The Truth Didn't Need Defending, It Just Needed Time. This episode is brought to you by Destiny is by Choice Support Services because your journey, your voice, and your truth matters. Alright, so let's hop into it. But before we dive in, I want to be completely honest with you all. This topic hits a little differently for me. Actually, it hits a lot differently because I'm currently dealing with a situation in my own life where the truth smacked me like a ton of bricks. And if I'm being transparent, there's a chance I may get emotional during this episode. And I don't particularly enjoy crying on camera. Like, I'm one of those people that when I see it, I scroll past it. But this is the Blinded Truth podcast. And this is the place where we have real conversations about real life, real pain, real growth, and real truth. So, I'm giving myself permission. So if the tears come, they come. Because healing doesn't always look polished, and sometimes healing looks like honesty. Sometimes healing looks like vulnerability. And sometimes healing looks like sitting in front of a camera and admitting that you're still processing what life just revealed to you. So, let's talk about it. Let's talk about truth. Not the truth we wish existed. Not the truth we create to make ourselves feel better. Not the truth we defend because we're afraid of what happens if we let it go. I'm talking about the truth that stands on its own. The truth that doesn't need a lawyer. The truth that doesn't need a marketing team. The truth that doesn't need you to argue for it every single day. Because real truth has a funny way of surviving, even when people don't believe it, even when people deny it, even when people try to bury it. Time has a way of covering what people try to hide, and that's the lesson I've been learning lately. For a long time, I believed that if something was true, I had to defend it. I had to explain it. I had to prove it. I had to gather evidence. I had to convince people, and I had to make them understand. Maybe you've been there too. Maybe you've spent nights replaying conversations in your head. Maybe you've written paragraphs you've never sent. And maybe you've tried to explain your heart to people who have already decided not to hear it. Maybe you've exhausted yourself trying to prove something that was already true. And that's exhausting because when you're constantly defending the truth, eventually you start carrying a burden that was never yours to carry, and you become responsible for other people's understanding. You become responsible for their acceptance, and you become responsible for their willingness to see reality. And here's the thing. You can't force someone to see what they are committed to ignoring. And I'll say that again and again. You cannot force someone to see what they are committed to ignoring. Some people don't misunderstand you because the truth is unclear. Some people misunderstand you because clarity would require accountability. And accountability is uncomfortable. It's easier to deny, and it's easier to blame. It's easier to rewrite history. It's even easier to create a narrative that protects their version of events. But time doesn't care about narratives. Time reveals patterns. Time exposes motives. Time uncovers inconsistencies. And time brings hidden things into the light. And eventually what is true becomes impossible to ignore. I think one of the hardest lessons I've learned is that truth and validation are not the same thing. And I used to think that they were, but they're not. And that one hurts because a lot of us secretly believe that if nobody validates our experience, maybe it wasn't real. And if nobody acknowledges the hurt, maybe it didn't happen. If nobody apologizes, maybe we're overreacting. And if nobody agrees with us, maybe we're wrong. But validation and truth are not the same thing. Something can be true even if nobody admits it. And something can be true even if nobody apologizes. Something can be true even if the people involved never take responsibility. And that's difficult because our hearts crave closure. We want the confession. We want the explanation. We want to have the moment where everybody suddenly sees what we've seen all along. But life doesn't always give us that moment. And sometimes the truth never gets publicly acknowledged. Sometimes the apology never arrives. And sometimes justice doesn't come in the package we expected. And that's where faith becomes necessary. Faith that what is true remains true whether it is acknowledged or not. I think that's what I'm wrestling with right now. Not whether the truth exists, but accepting the truth that already exists. Because sometimes the hardest truth isn't discovering it, it's accepting it. Sometimes we pray for clarity and then clarity shows up and we don't like what it says. And sometimes we ask God to reveal things and then He does, and we're standing there wishing He hadn't. Because the truth changed everything. Maybe you've experienced that yourself. Maybe you found out someone wasn't who you thought they were. Maybe you realized a relationship wasn't healthy. Maybe you discovered a betrayal. Maybe you saw a pattern you couldn't unsee. Maybe you recognized that you've outgrown a season of your life and suddenly you're grieving something that technically still exists. That's what truth does. Truth doesn't always destroy illusions gently, and sometimes it shatters them. Sometimes it arrives like a wrecking ball. Sometimes it arrives like a ton of bricks. And when it does, you have a choice. You can keep defending the illusion, or you can surrender the truth. I think one reason we resist truth is because truth often requires change. Once you know, you know. And once you see it, you see it. And once you accept it, you can't go back to pretending. And I know for me, that's uncomfortable. Because change requires courage. It requires letting go. It requires grieving. It requires healing. But here's what I'm discovering. Truth may hurt, but lies imprison. Truth may break your heart, but lies keep you trapped. And truth may make you cry, but lies keep you stuck. And if I have to choose between painful freedom and comfortable captivity, I'm choosing freedom every time. Even though it hurts. Especially when it hurts. And you know what's interesting? The older I get, the less interested I am in proving myself. And I say that right now because I lately feel like I've been having to prove myself. Not because I don't care, but because peace is too expensive to keep giving away. I've spent so much energy defending my intentions and defending my character, defending my decisions, defending my story. And now I've learned something. People who genuinely want the truth will eventually find it. And people committed to misunderstanding you will always find a reason to do so. You can't build peace on the foundation of other people's opinions. You just can't. And eventually, you have to become comfortable with being misunderstood. You have to become comfortable with knowing your truth even when others don't. And you have to become comfortable with letting time do what arguments never could. Because time has a way of revealing everything. Not always quickly and not always on our schedule, but eventually. And maybe that's the message somebody listening needs today. Maybe you're exhausted. Maybe you're tired of defending yourself. And maybe you're tired of explaining yourself. Maybe you're tired of proving your worth. Maybe you're tired of carrying evidence for a case that should have already been closed. And if that's you, hear me. You don't have to spend your life convincing people. You don't have to choose validation. You don't have to force understanding. You don't have to defend every chapter of your story. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is step back and let time speak. Let your character speak. Let consistency speak. Let integrity speak. Let healing speak. And let truth do what truth has always done, and that's stand. Because real truth doesn't collapse under pressure. Real truth doesn't disappear because someone disagrees with it. Real truth survives. And eventually, it reveals itself. So as I wrap up today's truth shot, I want to leave you with this. If the truth you're facing right now hurts you, you're not weak. And if you're grieving what you've learned, you're not broken. If you're emotional, you're human. And if you're struggling to accept what has been revealed, you're not alone. Sometimes the truth arrives as a blessing. Sometimes it arrives as a heartbreak. But either way, it arrives to free us. So, as I tell you this, I'm telling myself this. Stop fighting what has already been revealed. And stop carrying what time will reveal and what time was designed to uncover. Stop exhausting yourself trying to convince everyone. The truth didn't need defending. It just needed time. Thank you for spending these moments with me today. And thank you for allowing me to be vulnerable enough to share a piece of my own journey with you. If this episode spoke to your heart, share it with someone who needs the reminder that truth always has a way of rising to the surface. And remember, your destiny is by choice, not by chance. And until next time, keep walking in your truth. Bye.